Thanks for downloading a 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. We need your financial support to keep going. Go to www.3cr.org.au for more information and to donate online. Now stay tuned for your 3CR podcast.
Sabah al-Khair, good morning dear listeners. You're listening to Radio 3CR on 855 AM and Palestine Remembered with Robert Martin, Nasser Mashni and Yousef Ahmed al-Rimawi.
Palestine Remembered is Australia's only English-language radio program that is totally dedicated to Palestine. We'd like to welcome those listening on 855 and those that will join us on podcast at 3cr.org.au.
Thanks for joining us. Stay with us and enjoy the episode.
Good morning, Robert and Nasser.
Morning, boys.
Good morning, listeners.
It's good to see the team is back.
A full complement.
It's actually been a while.
It has.
Yeah.
So we are going to speak about 3 or 4 topics this week. We will speak about the home demolitions in Walajeh in West Bank, Walajeh village. Also, we have an outstanding announcement that Nasser is going to tell us more about the reward. I'm not going to even mention the name yet.
And the despicable actions of America withdrawing money from the Palestinian aid.
It's basically America's war on refugees. Mm-hmm. And we will end with another pleasant surprise. So without further delay, we will start with what is happening in Walajeh village. Israel is demolishing more Palestinian homes in basically response to the steadfastness of the people. And I believe, Robert, this is one of the places you have been to in your last visit to Palestine last year.
I did. So I spent a little bit of time in Walajeh doing some olive picking. And so I met a lot of the families which are close by.
Tell us, before we jump to the destruction, describe what you've seen. Describe the village. So
the village, they've got some perfectly good homes that have been made for many, many years have been there. You're going down this very, very windy street, and on the right, they've been deemed to be demolished. And as you go down the windy street, you can see the hills where there's a lot of olive trees, a lot of spare land where people could use it. But typical in Palestine, seeing the kids run across the road and playing and having fun, just happy people. And so when I saw this on the news, because Israel demolished a minimum of 3 houses in the last week, and you could see the families trying to protect their homes. You can see...
Well, at one point there was 140 people in the homes trying to save them from demolition, but the Israelis threw multiple stun grenades in there. They were dragging women, kicking and screaming out. I mean, it was just a full-on storm invasion. Now, these are homes that are being built on Palestinian land inside the West Bank. The Palestinians need Israeli permits for... can't get the permits. They build because their families are growing. This village has lost 70 or 80% of its land over the period since 1948. Much of the land is now an Israeli national park to stop.
That's what they've deemed it, an area which can't be built on.
So the Palestinians can't build there. What were agricultural lands for this farming community have been stolen from this community. And now where you were picking olives only less than a year ago, Rob, those horrific videos that got sent to you from the villages.
Yeah, it's a horrible thing because these families have known that one day potentially this will happen. Last time when it did happen, which was a few years ago, the soldiers go in there, they start at 2 or 3 in the morning and they ended up doing a number of houses. But the soldiers then intimidate the people, they laugh at them. And these Palestinians, they don't get given another place to go. And so you've got a mother and a father, they're all families are pretty large trying to live together. They've got nowhere to go. And the really sad part is that you can walk 200 metres away down the road and you'll see this brand new state-of-the-art fence that stops you from getting through. And you can see all of this land that they could utilise, but Israel has deemed it to be uninhabitable because they need a green area, they need a park.
A national park.
And it just shows the despicable behaviour and the horrendous way they look at Palestinians that they can do this. And they don't do it in a peaceful way, as you said, Nessa. They're throwing these stun grenades in there. They're fully armed people with, the M16s, the Uzi. It's horrific.
Well, they're stormtroopers, no regard for humanity. I mean, we saw pictures of kids sleeping in cars overnight because their home is no longer there.
And also in some of the cases, Israel doesn't determine the exact time of demolition, so they turn up and they give you a few minutes to leave the house, and in few minutes you can just take out whatever, you can imagine if somebody tells you that in 15 minutes not even 15 minutes, maybe in 10 minutes I'm going to demolish your house.
But those 10 minutes are the culmination of a permit or of a notice that was given 5 years ago or 7 years ago or 2 months ago or 10 days ago. Once the permit is given, there's no longer any sense of security or ability to plan or expect tenure in your own home that you've built with your own sacrifice, blood, sweat and tears. So
this is part of their plan, is to make sure people don't
break
sleep
the
tight.
determination of people, and in most of the cases,
psychological warfare.
Exactly, and the demolition takes place on the furniture and on the belonging of poor and needy people. And in this particular village only, which is a small village like any other village in Palestine, 80 homes were demolished in the last 30 years.
Just on, so people have an idea, Ahed Tamimi, who obviously became famous for being arrested, that village of Nabi Saleh, 80% of those houses are under demolition order, and so any day Israel can come through and demolish them. And so it's a relatively common practice.
Oh, no,
it's disgusting.
We've had Jeff Halper come to Australia probably on best part of a decade ago, but Jeff Halper is the chair of the Israeli Coalition Against Housing Demolitions. And since 1967, it's tens of thousands of homes. It's not 80, it's not 2, it's tens of thousands of Palestinian homes have been razed by Israel to make way for Jewish settlement.
That's exactly
and
what you're
also
saying.
to break, like you said, the psychological
warfare. Another depraved action that Israel actually does is, rather than demolish people's houses, they give them the option to either do it themselves because they don't have the money to pay for the fine. And so to see these families demolish their own home to save money
with their own
is
hands.
Just sickening.
So a message of solidarity to the people of Walajeh and to all the people in Palestine who show unbreakable steadfastness against this brutal occupation. Next is UNRWA. UNRWA is the United Nations Relief and Work Agency, a UN body that was founded in the early 50s to provide education, healthcare to the newly born Palestine refugee problem back in the late 40s, early 50s.
Well, we should say, Yousef, in fact, UNRWA initially was also charged with the responsibility of Jewish refugees, not just Arab refugees.
Yep.
It had to look after the Jews. Now, Israel accepted responsibility for the Jewish refugees, but Resolution 194, which said that all Palestinian refugees must be allowed to return to their homes or be compensated as soon as practicable. This was a condition upon Israel's entry into the United Nations.
And Israel accepted that condition.
And they had to satisfy that condition before their entry. Now, here we are in our 71st year of Israel being a full member of the United Nations, and it still has not to honour it. Now, since that time and the 750,000 Palestinians that were ethnically cleansed during Al-Nakba in 1948, today they number some 5.5 million people. And
these are the people registered in UNRWA only.
Correct, these are registered. I'm not registered in UNRWA, nor are you.
But we are genuine refugees.
We are genuine refugees, absolutely. Now, the reality is what Israel has been driving to do, because they're worried about demography. Because, if you celebrate God on a different day to Saturday, you're a threat, an existential threat to the Jewish state. Now, whilst these refugees have refugee status, and which means they should have a right, a legally defined right, to return to their homes and their ancestral lands, whilst they exist as refugees, they pose a risk. So the delegitimization campaign has been ongoing for many years, and it has been really accelerated under Netanyahu and Trump to say that, okay, you're a refugee if you left in 1948. Your descendants aren't refugees. Now, this is an absurdity because everywhere in the world, whether it be Afghanistan, Sudan, Congo, in Myanmar,
even in Bosnia,
everywhere, if you leave your children and grandchildren, they're refugees too.
And international law states that until it's rectified.
and it's also common sense.
It's enshrined. It's in humanity, international law, that your descendants are also refugees of their country. Now, part of Trump and Kushner, Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, part of their plan is to turn those 5.5 million people into something of the order of 50,000. It's as little as that, actual living descendants, living people from 1948. Suddenly they say, okay, well, the right of return, which is a core issue and something that no Palestinian can sign away for any other Palestinian. There's only 50,000 and we'll let you go. Tick that box. Jerusalem's gone. Tick that box. This is your state surrounded by demilitarized, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Within, a couple of enclaves in the West Bank. Box done. Shut up Palestinians. I mean, it's totally unacceptable. And this is the thing they don't understand. The Palestinian right to return is inalienable, which means it's something you were born with. No one can take it off anyone else. It is non-negotiable. It's historical. It's individual. I can't give my son's right away. My own son. I can't give his right away. It is his to choose whether he goes home.
And what's perplexing is the fact that any Jew in the world, if they're barely a Jew, they're actually able to go over there and live for the rest of their life and get sponsored to be there.
And receive and get the Israeli citizenship upon arrival.
So here's a list of some of the Aliyah benefits, yeah? Free one-way flight and additional baggage, free transportation from the airport, financial assistance 6 months from the time of their arrival, free health insurance for up to 1 year. The Aliyah program for the young is 5 months in Israel for a period of 5 to 10 months, and within 10 years they get free ulpan. They get rental assistance for up to 4 years, customs benefits, university studies within 3 years, income tax benefits, for the first 3.5 years. They get, within the first 7 years, property purchase tax reductions. And for the first 15 years, they get mortgage assistance. Now,
mind you that most of the refugees who make Aliyah live in first world country, like Australia, Canada, France, America, and they live in a protected way. Unlike the refugees in Palestine, who for four generations, they have been enduring the suffering of statelessness, worsening rights, especially in Lebanon, and we've spoken on this show about the list that keeps going longer and longer when it comes to...
Even we all know how horrific it is for a Palestinian and Lebanese refugee camp, let alone Yarmouk in Syria or Jordan, anywhere. If you're a Palestinian Israeli, an Arab Israeli as they're called, a full citizen, voting rights and all those things, that person, male or female, can't marry a non-Israeli and give them citizenship.
My brother.
Your brother.
Yeah.
Let alone some a Jewish person from Romania or America or Australia, Britain, can go and get all of those benefits and marry someone and immediately is a citizen and enjoy all of those benefits. But somebody who can trace their roots back hundreds and thousands of years, who's indigenous to the dirt, can't marry somebody from 1 kilometre over the apartheid wall. Coming back to UNRWA, one of the great complaints of the United States is that UNRWA is poorly run. The budget is somewhere between $1.2 and $1.5 billion. America gives $300 million of it, so between a quarter and a fifth of the total budget. America's not going to send any more because UNRWA's poorly run. The reality is, America is in the very start of a 10-year, $38 billion grant program into Israel, $3.8 billion a year going to Israel. On top of the billions of dollars they've spent in wars in Afghanistan and in Iraq, $46 billion this coming year and into Afghanistan, $13 billion into Iraq. To date, $753 billion in Iraq and $700 billion into Afghanistan. They've spent $1.7 trillion on those two wars, but UNRWA is poorly run. Now, UNRWA, with that $1.5 billion annual budget, which America supplies $300 million of, looks after 5.5 million Palestinians, has 70 odd schools, 59 camps, 500 odd thousand kids started school a few days ago for the first
year. Also
medical facilities, infrastructure, hospitals, social services,
and some
food
form
programs,
of work-related programs.
And most of the employees of UNRWA are Palestinians. So it's part of our own indigenous civil society. So,
well, thanks for providing the context of the war on UNRWA, because it is the right of return. And the Americans know that very well. And we've seen the Trump's administration, what they did with Jerusalem. So here we go. We have the rules of engagement of U.S. administrations to the so-called peace process. Historically, we have the 5 major topics. Jerusalem, number 1, right of return, number 2, settlement, number 3, and then the water resources, and then the borders. So here we have gotten rid of 2 of the 5 topics, Jerusalem and the refugees. So let's talk about the other 3.
Well,
now, in light
Yousef,
of...
we should just stop. There might be 2 of the 5, but they're the biggest 2.
This is the most important.
Yeah.
This is not 2 of the 5. This is not only 40% of the whole total. This is the most important and most sacred.
The number 1 is right
to return, and Jerusalem.
And Jerusalem number 2.
And everything else can be followed after that. So they have gotten rid of these the most important 2 topics, and of course their definition of the remaining is that we have political entity in West Bank, and now we have another political entity in Gaza, and then so no talk about statehood. So it's definitely a war on right of return, and it's definitely a war on statehood.
Just on America, have they given any more money to any other people on earth than Israel?
To a second degree, part of the Camp David agreement with Egypt is that Egypt will receive something like $3 billion in forms of aid, not in cash, of course. Some will get agricultural or military aid, and this is part of the Camp David agreement between Israel and Egypt. There are other forms of aid, but the
no
biggest,
one near as close.
No, nothing, and no one is near as close.
Also, something that's we've got to mention is that this action now, Kushner-Trump, what they're doing is rewarding Israeli extreme unilateralism. So Israel said Jerusalem's all of ours, supposed to be a final status negotiation.
And they will say done.
Done. Right of return, final status, let's talk about it later. Done.
Settlements, let's not talk about settlements.
Done. So the mentality of continuing to reward this unilateralism is emboldening the Israeli Knesset, the representative parliament of the constituency of the State of Israel, to pass things like the nation-state law, to enshrine apartheid. And the Jerusalem Affairs Minister, she said, this example proves that when Israel believes in its path and when the Israeli public unites behind our national interests, ultimately, the world concedes the truth and comes to our position. This is now happening with the Palestinian right of return. It happened with the decision to relocate the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, and it will happen in other areas if we show enough determination. And this has got to remember that UNRWA has a mandate that's given by the United Nations. UNRWA's mandate can only be taken away by the United Nations. The last vote was in 2017. It happens every 3 years. And the vote was 167 in favour of UNRWA and 1 against.
And guess who? And last thing on UNRWA, I was in the talk given by the top UNRWA guy in Australia in 2015, Mr. Pierre Cramble, and he started his speech by asking the audience to remember the major events that happened since 1951, because UNRWA started with the birth of the Palestinian refugee problem. And since then, he asked people to just think of major events. And people started saying the Korea War in the 50s, Kennedy in the 60s, and then the American-Cuban missile crisis. And of course, the list goes on and on and on in the 70s and 80s and 90s. And in 2018, here we go, the Palestinian refugee problem is still bigger than when it started. And this is, in fact, according to him, we cannot celebrate the anniversary of the birth of UNRWA because there is nothing to celebrate. The mandate of UNRWA will end when the refugee problem ends, and that is by return and compensation, not by continuing. So the Americans don't only to keep or to continue and sustain the refugee problem, they want to double the suffering of refugees by cutting the fund of the only source of livelihood and support. So you're listening to Palestine Remembered on 855 AM. And Nasser, you have an announcement for us.
Yeah, no, very, very exciting announcements. I'm very proud to announce that we have announced the winner of the Jerusalem Quds Peace Prize. So our first one, which will be delivered on the 29th of November 2018. And this will be on the day of the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. And our inaugural winner is Professor Emeritus Stuart Rees Australia Medal.
Fantastic.
So
congratulations.
And he's a great friend of the show and been on
We were
before.
lucky to have hosted him.
Absolutely. And I'll read from the press statement that was sent out today.
But can I ask you, before you read the statement, to tell us more about the prize?
So the Jerusalem Peace Prize, its job is to recognise the inspirational and extraordinary contributions and devoted efforts of Australian humanitarians seeking to aid Palestinians in their call for justice. And by sharing their stories, by helping Palestinians, whether it be in the arts or in refugee rights or in the main sense, even from my point of view, in advocacy, in legitimising the Palestinian struggle for justice.
He has all of that covered.
He's done all of those things. He's an extraordinary human being and a great honour. So I'll just read from our press statement today. So Professor Emeritus Stuart Rees Australian Medal will receive the inaugural 2018 Jerusalem Quds Peace Prize in recognition of his persistent and courageous advocacy for the human rights of all Palestinians living in Gaza, the West Bank, Israel, the refugee camps and the Palestinian diaspora in general. The prize will be awarded by former Foreign Minister and New South Wales State Premier, the Honourable Bob Carr, at a dinner at Queen's Hall at Victorian State Parliament on the United Nations Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, Thursday the 29th of November 2018. It'll be an occasion to hear Professor Rees deliver the Quds Peace Prize lecture also. So if people go to jerusalempeaceprize.com, they'll be able to buy tickets for that night. There are early bird tickets available now, and they'll get more expensive as we get closer to the date. So jerusalempeaceprize.com, go on there and buy yourself a ticket. Buy a table, it'd be great. Bring 9 of your friends or 10 people, and we'd love to see you there.
Congratulations, Professor Stuart Rees. And I think this initiative, Nasser, is a great reminder that the Palestinians under occupation or under statelessness suffering are not alone on their struggle. There are wonderful people around the world who do so much great work for Palestine and for their rights. And these people need to be recognized because they've done that for decades, some of them, and they will continue to do that with no return. They will do that because they seriously and sincerely believe in the importance of standing up to the Palestinian rights, to the Palestinian just rights of self-determination and independence. So I really would like to thank those who thought of this initiative. It's great to acknowledge the efforts of people like this. So this is an APAN and Australians for Palestine initiative, and I want to say thank you, Nasser, because you are a member of both of...
Thank you, Yousef. I think as welcoming as those words are, we are humbled by people like Professor Stuart Rees.
Absolutely.
And when you consider, the privilege that a white male who a tenured university professor, what is available to him from the point of view of, access to restaurants, access to thought leaders, access to opportunities. It's very easy as a university professor, a tenured professor, a white guy called Stuart Rees, to really just take a nice, cushy road, a bit of reading, a bit of research, a couple of papers, and just, really live off the fat. Nice glasses of red, some good steaks, some international travel, a talk here, a talk there.
Considering the alternative of supporting the Palestinians.
Because the absolute opposite of that,
the costs.
The absolute opposite of that convertible ride down the coast is...
Because supporting Palestinians
is choosing to support
comes
Palestine.
with a price.
Yeah, it's not for free.
It's a big cost.
And I'm sure Professor Rees will talk about the challenges he had when he awarded the Sydney Peace Prize to Hanan Ashrawi.
In 2000.
And the challenges that he faced dealing with a very vicious Zionist attack upon the integrity of the Sydney Peace Foundation, upon the very institution that Stuart had built in Sydney University, and upon his own personal integrity. Now, he never, ever bowed to that pressure, never, before or after. And when considering what opportunities he could have had when he compares his life with his peers, compared to, the life that he's chosen to lead.
You could go faster and further without support.
Well, this is the measure of humanity, because many people will choose the easy life.
And for this, we really think that initiatives like this are great, and to acknowledge the efforts of great people.
Now, Yousef, it's not often that we've got two pieces of exciting news, but today we do have a second piece. Tell us your news.
Well, I am very excited, and the team we have in Anaa min hunak, I am from there, the Arabic show on 3CR, are really delighted that this show will be aired in Palestine as of next Monday, and it will be 4 p.m. Jerusalem time. And I can't tell you how much heart warmed and how much, excited we are, maybe a bit scared as well, that our little initiative that we started on the 5th of April this year has seen this kind of progress and success, and also to see the connection.
What's important we need to tell our listeners just how big the connection is. So in 5 months, you're now on a radio station in Jerusalem, in Palestine, being beamed to Palestinians in Palestine. The show I Am From There, We Are Here in Australia, about Palestinians that are from there to Palestinians, and we've got millions of listeners of this radio station.
Yes,
it's not a little radio station. It's a proper big commercial enterprise.
And we are very lucky to be part of Raya FM in Palestine, and they, I think the connection between Palestinian refugees and homeland, the symbolic meaning and value of that, and the importance of the topics, because from a Palestinian media in Arabic point of view, there is a little bit of a gap in the representation of the news of refugees, especially in areas of conflict. And we've seen that in Iraq, we've seen that in Syria, we've seen that sometimes in Lebanon. I don't want to say that there is absence of their news in Palestinian news outlets, but there is a little bit of underrepresentation in time of calamities, like we've spoken about Yarmouk two weeks ago. So the value of the content and the connection between refugees and homeland is what made Raya FM take the decision and put the show as it is. So,
I'm wrapped for you. I think it's fantastic news. So congratulations to you and your team, Yousef.
Thank you. I would like to mention the name of Tarek and Dareen Fahmy, my co-presenters in the program, who have done amazing work for in the lead up to that, and we will continue, inshallah.
And when is it in Melbourne, the show, so people can tune in?
10 p.m. every Monday on 3CR, and it's going to be pretty much the same time, simultaneously broadcasted in Palestine.
That's fantastic.
In Jerusalem, in West Bank, in Gaza, in 48 areas across the historical Palestine. So people in Palestine can tune in 4 p.m. Jerusalem time. Nasser, we're heading towards the end of the show, but we have
one more announcement.
Yes.
Yeah. So the Australian Labor Party is having their triennial conference, and at their the national conference, what they do is decide the platform under which they're going into the next election with. Now, APAN has been working with our supporters within the Australian Labor Party to advocate for the next Labor government to immediately recognise the state of Palestine.
State, yeah.
So if you're interested in helping APAN to lobby union officials, delegates, Labor delegates, members of the local Labor Party branches, etc., go on to apan.org.au, and we'll be holding some training sessions nationally in each state to teach people how to effectively advocate for the Labor Party to recognise the state of Palestine when they're next elected. And based on current polls, Bill Shorten will be our Prime Minister in April or May next year. And what we'd like to do is bind him and Penny Wong to immediately recognise the State of Palestine. The current Labor position says that if there is no movement in the current negotiations, Labor will talk to like-minded countries and think about recognising the State of Palestine, which is just,
very light, broad.
It's never going to happen.
So with this, we have come to the end of another edition of Palestine Remembered. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Yousef. Thank you, Nasser. Thank you, listeners.
Thank you all.
Thanks, boys.
For tuning in. And remember to tune in next Saturday, same time, 9:30 in the morning. Until then, this is us. Have a great time and salam.
Goodbye.